All right, it is knife time. Once again, coming to you this lovely survival Saturday from Junker Forge. Now, grab your coffee or your favorite beverage and a little snack and get ready to relax and get into some things. We're going to be here a minute today. For we're going to cover quite the controversial subject. Indeed, we are. And that would be survival knives. Now, no kidding, since we're simple Americans for the most part that tune into this channel as per what my analytics tell me. And for those of you who aren't from America, thank you for coming here and checking out my American rambling self. I appreciate it. And I hope that it's entertaining for you as well. But now we're going to get into the subject of something, survival knives, and what got America, for the most part, so focused on knives in general, I'd say. The revitalization of the knife in America can be followed back to one movie franchise in the 20th century, and that would be the First Blood / Rambo series of knives. I was a young lad when those came out, and I tell you what, within weeks of that movie coming out, and this is pre-internet for public use, this is pre any way for people to get knives except for in the backs of magazines, knife catalogs, places like Brigade Quartermasters had knives. You would see ads in Soldier of Fortune magazine for knives here and there, and Guns and Ammo, all the sporting related magazines, and there were catalogs, but you couldn't go on the internet and be like, what's the best survival knife? But within weeks of the First Blood movie coming out, and even more so once the second part came out, this type of thing was everywhere. Now, I've never had a First Blood replica or Rambo knife replica in all my years. I figured I'd get a Lyle one day, and now that I'm older, I really just don't see a point in having one of those. But this actually was one of the higher quality offerings. Now, my brother was trying to track down who made the original Rambo knife after it came out, and so he bought himself a series of hollow handle Compass Boy survival knives, and this was the first one he bought, and then he found himself a higher quality one that actually looked very close to the original. And he gifted this one to my dad, and my dad took one look at this, and it went in his top drawer. And if I was really good and I did my chores and I didn't act up too much, my dad would let me carry and or use this from time to time. I just remember it having a decent edge. When I was a young man, we'd go camping or hiking, and I would be chilling out. I remember our church group hiked to the top of Mount Rose, and I was carrying this when I was 10 years old, and Mount Rose is like one of the highest mountains in Nevada, northern Nevada especially. And we, about halfway up, we were stopping, taking a break, and I remember I would shave my pant leg with this thing and get blue fuzz on it and wipe it off. That's about all I ever did with this. Cut some string and stuff. But this was one of the original, like, oh, you have to have it hollow handle knives. And like I said, this was a higher quality one. I don't know the brand. I know that the original kit is long gone. I know the compass still works. This is a very sterile zero marking knife. And eventually my dad just gave it to me. Look, see those rings right there are for the little saw that used to be in here. Eventually my dad just gave me this and it became one of my knives. But like I said, since it had been like my brother's and then it was my dad's, it was family, so it was revered, and so I always just kept it away and in very nice shape. And it was carried. You can tell by the sheath. I carried this for quite a lot of years. But as time went on, I wanted to pick my own survival knife. So around 10 or 11, maybe a little younger, not older. And this is going to make a lot of people sad. The scabbard is at my mother's house, I believe, but she gave me this in a bag of stuff a few years ago, and I've never cleaned it up. Yeah, my vintage Parker Brothers hollow-handled camouflage survival knife with the saw back and no tip, and punk rock spikes I added somewhere in the 80s because that was cool. Well, and it was more like a Buckmaster, but with the spikes going forward. Ah, that's right, Parker Brothers, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Surgical steel made in Japan. This discoloration is from blood, from chopping the heads off 1 million fish. I've tried to fillet fish with this, but I'd always end up grabbing my dad's fillet knife and use it. I have sawn off little branches and done all the things that one can do with this. Would I class this a survival knife? Well, I survived from anywhere from 9 years old to 15 years old with this knife on my hip. So between 5 and 6 years, this thing was my knife for the most part, that I carried it in a sheath. And I was a very active outdoor individual. When I wasn't in the mountains with my family, I was usually in the mountains with my friends. And then around the time of being, 15 or so, I'd been working for almost 2 years, real jobs at that point, and I started saving up. I started buying more higher end knives. But this was laying around my mom's house and has been used by me, anybody that needed a big old knife to do something dumb with, and my youngest nephew had a hold of this thing for quite a few years, and that's where it caught a lot of the flack that it has. Hello, T, my sweet goat boy, I love you. And yeah, this is an old friend that has been with me. Pretty strong, a pretty strong knife, I must give it that. Look at the old alloy dust in there from all the corrosion over the years. That's great. Yeah, this is an old buddy. I'm gonna clean it up as best as I can and make a display for it. For this was one of my first original wilderness companions. If I was in the dirt, this was on my hip, like a good Chernobyl pony. Now, one thing I want to get into, like I said, we're going to be here for a minute. We got a lot of knives, we got a lot of examples to go into, and we got a lot of subject matter to cover. But that's all right. This is our Saturday special. I want to get into something. Usually, when something is labeled, especially on websites, and I left one inside. We'll get into that another day. Especially on websites and the like, and Amazon and your Instagram ad that pops up. When something is called a survival knife or there's survival in the name, unless it is literally like, and I hate to use this for an example because it's not always the truth. If it's an American-made knife and it has survival in the title, it's probably a decent, usable knife. But a lot of knives, imported knives, that have survival in the title, it's like, eh. Now this mossy oak, I believe they call this their 15-inch survival or whatever it is. This is a fun knife. I think this knife is really radical, and you can get it for under 20 bucks. And it comes in a cool sheath with the ferro rod, with the whistle, and all the things, and I think that's pretty cool, and it has survival in the name. This honestly would be great, a youth grade survival knife. A young man would love to swashbuckle around with this thing out in the wilderness, in the backyard, in the back 40, chopping branches and doing all the things, but make sure there's a grown-up around with a real solid heavy-duty knife. Don't make this like the only knife in your camp. And I'm not saying anything bad about this, it's just I have not put it through the paces enough to know if this would be considered a true survival knife. A knife that you could bet your life on. On the flip side of that coin, because I'm not giving nobody no flack here unless it's due. Mossy oak. Mossy oak. On the flip side of that coin. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to do a video about it later on. I've done a video on this knife before. The Mossy Oak 14-inch wood-handled Bowie knife right here. This is there's specials going on about this right now on Amazon. Black Friday deals. This is literally like $15 and change right now. Okay? And I dare say this is the best knife you can get in America, readily available for under $20. And I bet the farm on that. Anybody who wants to challenge my words again about that, well, challenge away. I have a brand new one in the package I am willing to bust out and only use for any set duration of time, because this right here is the best knife you can get your hands on for under $20. Period. That's a junk fact right there. And we're going to get back into this, and we're going to recover this knife. And I would consider this a survival class knife, 110%. This may be one of the best knives you can get your hands on, period. Bang for buck, and for it being what it is. No joke. The Mossy Oak 14-inch Bowie with the wooden handle. Excellent. Excellent knife. Okay. Survival. And like I said, sometimes when you get something with the word survival in the title, you're getting lied to. Case in point, the lovely orange box. Now, what have I told you about the orange of marbles before? All right? The orange box of marbles should signify to you that this is a novelty / toy, albeit edge toys, so be careful and don't give them to children unless they are supervised. Toy, like an orange cap gun or an orange water pistol. No matter how they try and root and toot it, Smoky Mountain Knife Works has taken a once noble and venerated knife brand and flushed it down the toilet in some hellhole corner country in the middle of nowhere. Now you're going to say, but Uncle Junk, that's such a beautiful knife. And yeah, it is. It's beautiful. If you wanted to hang this on your wall and keep it there, okay, it's a rattly boy because it's a leather stacked handle and we're in the high desert. And this thing is beautiful. This is the Jet Pilot survival knife, brother. You can survive with this, right? We can survive, and there's a bunch of other knives that look like this. Are we going to survive with this? Let's see. Let's see. Let's do some testing. Do we got a stick? We got a stick. We got a stick. We got a survival knife. Oh, look. Oh, shit. Oh, okay. We can get some bark off a stick. That's good. That might work in that might work in a situation. Okay, so we can We can do that. We can do that. Hey, it will cut. And some say that's all you need a knife to do, okay? Which I agree with for the most part. If you're going to be out in the wilderness and you know you're going to be doing some survival type stuff, get yourself a nice little hatchet or bring with you an axe. Do not do what Uncle Junk does. These are Kevlar lined, cut resistant gloves. Do not do what Uncle Junk does. I am a professional when it comes to being stupid with knives. I'm just going to show you. Sometimes when you buy a knife that has survival in the name, it ain't going to cut it. And I'm just going to show you. So look at this here. This knife, I could bend it in half with my hands right now. See that? And look, it's staying bent. I don't want to go all crazy. But this is not a survival knife. You see that? If you had to put this under any force or leverage, it's just gonna turn into a wet noodle garbage. Okay? And a lot of people are like, but Uncle Junk, these marbles, they're just display knives. Okay, whatever. Hey! Don't be eating my box. Crazy boy. Goats love cardboard. A knife that gets bought more than most knives in the world. The K-bar. The K-bar. This is the 1211. This is the abused 1211 K-bar. Brian the K-bar. Its native name is Dancing Tang. This is another knife. I could literally take my bare hands and bend it. Bend it 90 degrees over. No kidding. I mean, look, it's bent right there. I barely put any work into it. Uncle Junk's took like the last month and a half off from working out. And I can still bend this knife in half. Look at, very crooked. Stick tang. Combat utility? No. No. Emergency combat utility? Maybe. It'll do the things, but I would not bet my life on a stick tang. Anything. Whether it be made in USA K-bar crap, or imported from God knows where. Oh, this one's China. And you know what? So this makes this a nicer version. But dude, come on, man. I just don't want this breaking and flying all over the place. But I could bend this or break it right now with my bare hands. You do have lateral pressure on things in survival situations. Crap. Not a survival knife. Toy. Dangerous toy. Alright. It's pretty though. Not to bash. I'm not here to bash. I'm here to show you some reality. Now, if you're gonna buy a K-bar, if you're like, but K-bar is a kill a bear, man. It's the original American knife. Not really, but if you're a Marine Corps dude and you're like, man, you just hurt my feelings about my K-bar. Well, yeah, there are good K-bars. One example of that would be the BK9. Any of the Becker, I can't say any. Most of the Becker series of knives, oh, I don't need to wear my gloves anymore. Although it was nice and toasty, it's chilly out. The Becker series of knives, the BK9, the BK2, you can't beat it. My buddy, Suburban Ninja EDC, he has a BK2 and he swears by it, and I had one and they are amazing. I gifted mine on down the line. That's how good of a knife it is. You'll never get a knife out of me unless it's a good knife, even for a gift. The Becker line of knives, these scream survival. This screams, use me, harder daddy. period. This thing has done more wood work, as in chopping limbs and splitting logs, than most of my actual woodworking stuff, like my mauls and wedges and all the things I use to make firewood. This has been used for that type of stuff almost as much as my stuff that is designated for firewood use. You can rely on a Becker. They are 1095 steel, which means you have to maintain them and take care of them and oil them. They may not hold the edge that some of these super steels that are super brittle and will crack on you in the field because they're stainless, and they just don't have the molecular structure to put up with the abuse that something of a higher carbon content will, like 1095, 3V, that type of stuff. But this here is a survival knife, a bit large for my tastes, because like I said, if I know I'm going into a situation where I may have to rely on a knife, I'm probably going to have a hatchet and or an axe on me as well, so my knife can be more of a knife thing. This is an aftermarket sheath, very nice. You can find them on eBay. I can't remember the company, but the guy makes good stuff. And I can use this thing for a paddle. Good Lord, look at that thing. Yeah, Becker series of K-bar knives if you want a K-bar knife that you can bet your life on. Now, we're going to get into the age-old adage of the best survival knife is the knife you have on you. Okay. But if I got something like this on me, no, I'm just trying to survive ladies' night down at the Rusty V or something. You know what I'm saying? And this is just a novelty for me. A highly modified $6 karambit that I modified and made a cool little sheath that is low profile and doesn't look knifey in my pocket, and that clips to the inside of your pocket so you can deploy it. This is maybe some urban survival, maybe, but I wouldn't want to disappear into the wilderness with this on me, whether the edge is on this side or that side. This is not something, you know, it's a knife, it will cut, but you're gonna have a hard time doing survival type stuff with this style of knife, and many others. Lots of daggers and such are not very good for that type of thing. Now, we've gone from this big old boy, survival boy, down to, we're going to check out like a more logical folk. Some Swedish folk. And their jet pilot survival knife would be this, huh? I didn't bring out the sheath I made for it. This would be the Scandinavian F1. And it's got this weird Mora bushcrafty style sheath. This is a very Nordic, Northern European style sheath. It does have different lashing points if you wear a fancy lad belt or whatever, or maybe put that on a strap, or the one thing I do enjoy about the factory Scandinavian F1 sheath is this. That switch locks that boy in there, and I mean locks it. You are not getting that out of there, which would be quite important and work quite well if you eject yourself out of a plane and you don't want to lose your knife. Maybe having it locked in place like that is a good thing. When I'm around deep water, this is the sheath I like to use. Now, Fallen Even is a great knife company. They make hot rod, beautiful, cold steel looking knives that cost a lot more than cold steels. Now, this is the Swedish Pilot survival knife, and I'm gonna tell you right now, just from my experience the last few weeks with my Odin Wolf W flat, that is slightly larger than this. You can do all the survival, and I've never used this knife much. I've carried it some. I've reviewed it on the channel. But this can be and is designed to be a survival knife, and it will do everything you need to do with a knife. This is a Jote, a very good jack of all trades knife, and soon we're going to be going in the quest to find the Jote, the goat Jote, I will call it, the greatest of all time, jack of all trades knife. That's been my quest my whole life. This is a great Jote, faux show, but that's a separate video. This has an amazing spine, 90-degree spine for striking a ferro rod. It has that awesome convex to zero grind, which works well for woodwork, all the things. This right here is a very, very useful and awesome tool. And yes, even though it is not very large, in my humble, semi-professional opinion, this knife is just as formidable as this knife if you really had to get down to brass tacks in a true survival type situation. You can process lumber a lot quicker with this, but hey, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. This knife will cover your bases. This is a knife you could have on your person and be good to go. And I'm a big knife guy. The Fallen Even F1. This particular one is in Vigewolf steel. Hot rod VG10, baby. Now, so far we've been looking at different offerings. Most of them, what I'd consider to be in the affordable class. I don't know. I got this for like 110, 115 bucks way back, maybe a little less. They're probably like 150 now. Who knows? Shit's so crazy in our economy. That's a good one. The Fallen Even. You can get these anywhere 150 and between 100 and 150 bucks, depending on sales, whatever. Get your coupon, your discount codes, whatever. Fallen Even. Can't go wrong with the Fallen Even, really. Excellent piece. Another knives that are reliable and you can count on. Good. This is an example. This isn't made anymore. This is an Ontario Rat 5. We've gone over it. This is a very good knife. Anything along this line, very good. Okay? Good. Older Ontario's, full tang. Nice slicey blade. You can baton with this. If you're in a survival situation, make yourself something to baton with out of a rock or something and save your knife. But I'm just saying, you could do all the surviving things. This would do Bear Grylls and his husband proud. For sure. Another company that you can seek out and knives you can count on. I've never heard of somebody not being able to rely on is an EC knife. Alright? This is an EC4. I have several EC4s because they're a very good knife. Alright. some might say the larger versions would be best for a survival type situation, but you know, as we've seen per the Fallen Even, some people can survive with a smaller knife apparently. ECs, rock and roll, bet your life on them. Some knives come so set up, it's awesome, thick, gorgeous leather knives. I don't know. This is a Spanish-made knife. A lot of you take one look at this and go, oh, that's a Spanish-made knife. This is a CDS. This knife has been labeled under different company names and stuff. You know, Jokerish, Fox, whatever. The Spaniard knife companies. This is a CDS version, made in Spain. 58 Rockwell, very nice 4 to 5 millimeter thick blade, some jimping there, G10 scales, red liners, or no, that's micarta actually, micarta scales with the red liners that bolt on. It's got a lanyard hole, and I can see you through the lanyard hole. This is a good knife. I've had several of these. They were gifts. They work well. They take a licking and keep on ticking. Like I said, if you're going to count your life on something, make sure it is a nice, thick, full tang knife. All these knives so far, I would not set them into the premium class. If you want to get higher up into the premium class of knives, when it comes to betting your life on something, you're like, I need to spend more than $200 on a knife for it to save my life, Uncle Junk. Well, here you go. And we've covered it before. The black crayon. The Bark River Knives Bravo 1. Yeah, this particular version is an A2. A2 is a magical take a lick and keep on ticking good steel. Might be a little too old-timey for you Magna Cut boys out there, but this will do the job. I have several Bark Rivers in A2, and they're all well. You know, if you need a knife that has been tested and tried and true beyond what Uncle Junk would probably do with this knife, you know, they gave these to some Marine Corps fellows and sent them off into the wilderness with a year with them, and this is the one they chose to have made for them. You can get this without the ramp as well. Bark River is a lovely rabbit hole to go down if you want to end up emptying your pockets on a regular basis. There's several versions of the Bravo 1 I wouldn't mind having in the collection, but this is my main one. This has spent a large amount of time in my wilderness pack. I keep the sheath slathered in leather conditioner so it stays in good form. That convex grind, man. Bark River really does a great job on that. This may be considered small for some people, but like we have learned, you know, a whole Northern European government and military considers this a survival knife. All right. See what I'm saying? Do you see the theme here? These are knives that are good for all kinds of stuff. Skinning, slicing the roots you find in the ground so you can boil them, make them a little bit more tender, you know. Notching things to set snares and all the things. You don't need a giant knife, and I'm a giant knife guy. I hope that this Survival Saturday has awakened you a little bit. You can have pushing $300 knife or higher. Although I wouldn't pay that for many sheath knives nowadays. It's crazy, unless it was something gorgeous for martial use. And you can have the $16 knife that will get you through. But it's got to be the right $16 knife, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure there's others than this out there, but look, nice full tang, big old heavy duty blade. Yeah. So, that's our glance at some survival knives. The what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Don't bet your life on a hollow handle thing. It will break. You want the full tang. Alright. Remember, sometimes it says survival in the name, and it's the farthest thing from what it could actually be. Silky boy knife. Silky boy knife. Not a survival knife. Silky boy, banana bending boy. Look at that. Alright. I'm still messing with this guy. Great knife. Great knife. Alright. Everybody, I hope you're having a super Saturday. I hope this wasn't too long. I hope that you found a point and or some information in it that you can use. And I'm gonna leave you to it. Don't forget to watch your top knife.